Hello everyone, thanks for checking in tonight's video. Today is August 27th, Tuesday 2013. Let's get right into these charts. Just want to do a quick update everyone. This was my first support, this gap fill. Got a nice counter trend bounce, and I pretty much said this 20-day moving average is going to keep this market in check along with the 10-day moving average. And sure enough, and I said that's going to be important for next week. Sure enough, the news came out of Syria, and we got a nice gap down. Pretty much a gap and go. We actually closed below this pivot, so that's going to be important resistance on the way up intraday, and sure enough, that was pretty much your high day. I believe this is a fake print. And it's funny how these fake prints go to right important levels, right? It went right into a gap fill and a retest of the 50-day moving average. Let's see if we can get a counter trend bounce, another bounce back into this area. I think you really can, because right now we're headed to some very, very solid trend line support, 618 Fibonacci retracement. All these factors should yield a nice bounce in the card. Short-term bounce here, okay, guys? Just like I mentioned here, we've got a nice short-term counter-trend bounce. We could get one soon, very soon actually, because we are heading to the 618 Fibonacci, this consolidation area here, and this trend line. If you draw back the hands of time, see where that trend line actually comes out. If you draw it from this pivot low to this pivot low, if you kind of extend it out, it does generally take you in that vicinity. So that I suspect that's going to be very solid, right around the 161. So that's going to actually come to play. Perhaps this week. I believe that's your bounce area. Depending on open, right now on open interest on the weekly puts, it does say that 164 is your max open interest. So we could pierce a little bit through that and then kind of shake you guys out and recapture that level, close and pin right around the 164 this week. But let's see how it all plays out. I did some very nice intraday scalps today, just very short term. See, notice it just grinded lower all day. But if you shift your timing to very short term, you can kind of just take as much as you can out of these really small moves. I'll show you the levels that I did take. Pretty simple. I knew the gap fill was, this pivot low was an obvious one. Took that for a very small gain, because you got to think now you're below all the moving averages. And you have a downtrend building, so you can't take too much out of the counter trend bounces. So if you look on the hour chart as well, you have downtrends as well. So this could be a short-term momentum shift to the downside. Look at this, below the moving averages. So you have to get benefit down to the downside. So I took a very small bite to the market off this level here, the pivot low. The next level is your gap fill. This was a beauty. Pretty much took 1 point in like a matter of seconds. My timing was absolutely spot on. This gap fill was very minor now, because we've just been riding it, getting really close to it. But I did go ahead and take this line right here. I'll make it in make it different color so you can see that gap fill. This is just intraday, guys. This is on the 10-minute chart and the 5-minute chart, 1-minute chart. I look at all time frames just to make sure the timing is precise. Okay, look at that red line, that gap fill. It pretty much intraday tagged it beautifully and just got a very quick bounce, and it took a nice bite of the market right there. And so you notice even grinded lower all day, I was still able to make a decent chunk of change on an intraday basis. And the next level was actually this lower portion of this gap filler here. So this was where it consolidated. So so I sold it and went a little lower and took a nice. That was the third one I took, and after that I was pretty much done intraday for day scalping and day trading. My next level, once again, guys, let me go back to the daily chart. Very beautiful. Also, on a lot of those trades coincide with the ES, the E-mini futures, which was the Wednesday low, the overnight low that we made, and it did actually pierce that and close below it. But I did play that as a reference right there for bounces. Okay, I played that. That was a big part of my trading right there on the intraday basis on the ES. Because you got to combine the SPY, ES, some major stocks, also the IWM. Kind of put it all together when you're trading and find the best levels. Okay, the next level on the SPY. Okay, very interesting. Obviously, you have your 75% retracement, which will coincide with the 150-day moving average and the 160 even number. Okay, guys, those are always important factors on an SPY or any kind of stock or ETF or stock or commodity. Every even number is always going to be solid support, but you can't just put that together by itself. You always have to put it together with a pivot or Fibonacci or a moving average that's rising on an uptrend. You always got to take that into consideration. But if this trend line fails, it could pierce a little bit. But I do expect a bounce in this trend line area, okay, guys? Anywhere in this general vicinity, okay? I could pierce these trend lines and recapture, but it's what happens when it starts hitting these, I will start to sell bull put spreads on the sell side and sell it below next supports. Okay, that's what I usually do. That's usually my main strategy, and it's been working out very, very, very well. Okay, for the past few years. Okay, let's go to the next major support. This is where I'm actually going to think about going long. Actually, okay, so there's long ideas and there's those ideas where to sell options for premium. This is your spot to go long here. No brainer, fellas. 200-day moving average after a major drop. That's going to be a very solid support. It kind of lines up with a double bottom as well. I mean, in the next few weeks or so, if it gets there, this will be rising, but definitely got to keep an eye out for that 200 moving average. We are piercing through that 20-week moving average, I believe. I did mention that was going to be support last week, and now, sure enough, you already bounced there already. So you already had your bounce there, short-term bounce, and now it's a beautiful bounce as well, right into it. Now we're cutting through it. This is minor support on the weekly chart, so you can't be surprised that on the next hit, it's going to go through it, go to the next level. And my next level, guys, like I said, is just going to be this trend line here, okay, guys? And see how it lines up with the 50-week moving average as well. See in the next few weeks, if we do get down there in the next coming weeks, this 50-week moving average will be riding up into this. So my long idea right now into this pivot. Okay, so my long idea is at the moment 155.62. Okay, that's my long idea. Okay, that's where I'll be adding longs in this market. Coincides with the Bollinger Band. Got a nice even number around the 155. Daily chart, 200-day moving average. Uptrend still on the weekly charts. You still, believe it or not, you still have an uptrend on the daily chart as well, as long as you're above the 200. But this market does have to pull back. You got some nice volume on this sell candle as well. So, this could be just the makings. The measured move does take you to this trend line too. If you measured out, this is an ABC pattern here. The measured move does take you to this level as well. So you have to always work out the measured move on the current pattern, and that does seem like that's the next target. Okay, and the next probably in this week, I would say 161.71. That's your downside objective for the week, and next week we'll see how it all plays out. Let's go to the IWM. Let's go at 6 minutes into this video. Let's try to make this nice and quick, nice and sweet. It seems like this $100 level. It's still going to be important. It could pierce through it now because we did already get a bounce on it now. So notice my levels. If it don't bounce there, if it does not bounce to my level, if it bounces prior to it, you always gotta look. It might go lower. Okay. Now, even though this is going to be important support still 100, but I still think that now the measured move does take a little bit lower, and now I'm actually looking for this trend line here. Maybe with this little consolidation here. It's a very small consolidation pattern here, but sure enough, it did pause there in this area. And it does line up with a 618. Okay, let me just draw that in and see where if you guys want to write these levels down, that'd be a very smart idea. $98.26. Okay, that pretty much fills the measured move off of ABC 123 pattern, consolidation 618, trend line, beautiful stuff. Go to weekly chart and see what we got there. And yes, you do have a major trend line on the weekly chart as well. Actually, it's minor because we've been banging on it, but this is a longer term chart, so you gotta suspect that this will hold for at least a few days for around the 98.60 level. Okay, guys, let's go to the Qs. Qs, pretty much that bearish pattern pretty much playing out, but on the weekly chart you are getting bullish consolidation here, actually making a nice high base. But let's go to the daily chart, as most of us are shorter term traders. We did make a nice retracement and actually retested these highs and crashed down, and we are closing generally at this low from Wednesday. So Q is acting up a little bit better. We actually held Wednesday's low, but we have support here coming up with the 200. So actually it is actually showing a little bit more relative weakness actually, because it is almost testing the 50-day moving average already. So that's my objective too as well right here on the Qs. That's going to be roughly this trend line. I've drawn these in for a very long time. So my objective right here on the Qs on a daily chart, for perhaps a short-term bounce, 74.27. Okay, let's go to Apple. Apple, pretty much working out just the way I expected. I was expecting a pullback before it does reach eventually this upside target, and let's see if we get it. Right now, it is right here at the 20-day moving average. I did say that it doesn't go in a straight line, that it might want to pull back and take a breather, but I don't really like this long candle. I just like small candles going into the moving average. But it is headed toward that 20-day moving average. Let's go on a 10-minute chart. You can see where the breakdown occurred. Very clear breakdown, guys. As it made this base here, and it did cut through it on higher volume here. So that was a clear. The measurement does take you roughly to 476, but that's on a shorter term basis, and I think it could go lower than that, in my opinion. Just based off what I'm seeing, a nice retest of actually 472 would be more ideal, because those measured moves are just minimum targets. They can easily go lower, but I'm not looking to chase Apple right here. I still think maybe a retest of the 200-day moving average would be ideal. Actually, I think it really got ahead of itself. Actually, I really thought it was going to consolidate more after a major 200 moving average. Pretty much a second hit, cut through it right away. So maybe it needs to back test it here. But you know, that's what I'm looking at Apple. So support number one, which is minor, I believe, in my opinion, is this 20-day moving average, and then more major support would be generally in this vicinity where it broke out before at the 471-ish and this 200 moving average. Okay, that's your back test. Let's look at Amazon. Amazon looks like it's headed for the 200. That's my buy spot. Short term, you do have the 100 moving average, 100-day moving average there. I'm not making too much out of it. The measure move does looks like it wants to go lower. You pretty much went into a death cross right here. Price went into it, and now you're getting a nice pullback. Your buy area is simple, 270 with this pivot. That's your buy area right there. You know, if it does head there, I'll be selling puts below that area, or you might even go long there. That's a very, very decent spot. On a weekly chart, you are headed to support as well. You're right at that 20, but you know you bounced off it already. Okay, remember the SPY. You gotta bounce and you cut through it. So I'm looking for lower prices. 50 would be a better spot at the 266, and that kind of lines up with the 269 on the daily chart. So it could pierce to that. Remember, weekly chart analysis could pierce. Okay, guys. So if there's a 50 moving average on a weekly chart here, it pretty much lines up with this pivot. Okay, and a pierce of a 200-day. So intra candle on the daily chart could pierce it on a weekly time frame as well, and then. I'm sorry, on a weekly candle, could intra candle pierce it and close above on a weekly chart. Okay, guys, so on a daily print, it could come as low as here and then recapture. Okay, guys, let's look at Google. Google's, you know, all these, you know, heading to some intriguing spots. That's why I decided to do a video, because we are coming up with some intriguing spots on the chart. Look at Google. This was my area before where we bounced. I called this area, I believe it was a 50% retracement off this move, and retested the breakout area. See, these breakout areas are so important, and now we're retesting that right now. So that's going to be a very, very important spot on Google. Generally in this vicinity at 845 to 850. Okay, that's going to be very important. Let me zoom in and get you a little more accurate calculation here, if I can. Yeah, pretty much in this general vicinity here. Okay, that's your buy area, and you don't want to see really close below this pivot, but you know, in this general vicinity is going to be support along with the 150-day. But you know, that's going to be minor now. After this could be a nice double bottom play intraday. Definitely, it's coming up. Actually, kind of tagged it already, so this is some support here. But what I'm seeing on the market is I do see a little bit lower prices. That's why I'm anticipating it can go a little bit lower, Google. But we'll see how that plays out. That is Google's chart. Let's take a look at. I'm going to take a look at oil. I really don't look at oil that much. It's just too volatile for me. But you know, we got getting a nice pop today based off the news today. We are pretty much closing above these highs, so that could be a breakout. Let's see if we can make a nice high base and see further upside. Let's look at Tesla. I know there's something else I wanted to look at, but I can't think of it right now. Tesla just being very, you know, acting the same parabolic move, just still continuing to grind higher. Still a beautiful chart. I mean, it's extended, yes, you know, but you can't really fight the trend and try to short here. I mean, this could have been an okay signal. You got a nice little spinning top candle on a daily chart print, and you got a good volume on it, but you know, still not enough. You can use that as a reference if you want, but for me, that's not enough to trade it. You're really on uncharted territory here, and just kind of trying to short it here. It's kind of messing with fire. Really, you may want to look for a high reversal candle, and then look for a bearish pattern. That's probably what you want to do on Tesla. What is something else I want to take a look at in Tesla, but I cannot remember it. Let's see. Cannot think of it right now. I guess that would be it for the video, guys. If you guys have any comments or ticker symbols, you guys looking at something, I'd love to go over them for you. You know, if you're in something, if you're long, you're short, and you just want some guidance, some analysis, I would definitely love to go over them. Short term, long term, whatever way you trade, let me know. I'd love to go over the charts with you guys. So I'll call it a day, guys. Great trading day for me. Cannot wait to see how this week plays out. Very excited. Already in some nice profits already into the second day of the trading week. But you know, let's see how it all plays out in the next few days. I will talk to you guys later. Just watch out for those levels, guys. Go back to the SPY. Support 1 is that trend line, like I mentioned. And then ultimately the 200-day moving average, guys. So let me draw it in support 1, 2, 3. Support 1, right here, guys, is trend line at the 160, 170. Support 2, it's going to be 160 even number. Support 3, which is going to be my buy area in this market, 156. Okay, guys. On that, I will take off and talk to you guys next time. I will update you guys if I see anything else. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great one.